Hello and welcome to the second day of the Construction 4.0 conference by ConTech, broadcasted live from Startup Nation Central Studio here in Tel Aviv. We have a full day ahead of us, packed with fascinating panel discussions and lectures. One of the most exciting topics we will discuss today is investing in construction tech, which I'm sure is relevant to many of you. As an entrepreneur myself, I can testify that fundraising is one of the most challenging and exciting aspects of building a startup. We will also meet some of the most interesting Israeli construction tech and prop tech startups and talk about different aspects of digital construction. But first, let's say hello to Michal at the watch party. Hello, Michal.
Good morning, Aviv. How are you this morning?
Amazing. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. It's bright and fresh here this day here up on the fourth floor at Startup Nation Central. The ocean looks fantastic. Tel Aviv is vibrant and lively as always. And all the people here are starting to arrive to view the second day of our broadcast today, Aviv. And also with us just arrived is Dana Miller from the Ministry of Economy. Good morning, Dana.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
I am great. How are you? Thanks for joining us today.
Of course, it's my pleasure. For those who doesn't know yet, so ConTech is a joint venture of the Ministry of Economy and Industry, the Ministry of Building and the Building Association, and we are here today all together to encourage this ecosystem and to bring much more opportunities to the startups and the companies. And I'm really welcome everybody who's joining us in the live screen.
Thank you, Dana. And where are you arriving from today?
Jerusalem.
Great, Jerusalem, our capital, straight through with all the traffic. She's arrived just on time to start the watch party here, Aviv. And we're really looking forward to this day of broadcast. And I'll be entertaining the guest here while you host your panel there downstairs. So back to you, Aviv, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks a lot, Michal. And let's start the day with a live panel from Tel Aviv with two more ConTech startups and one venture capital. Please welcome Dima Haikin, the CEO and founder of ConWize. Dima has over 14 years of experience in the construction industry, leading high-visibility business-critical IT projects, including successful ERP projects in public construction companies. He also managed the IT department of a public construction company. Izhak Paz is the CEO and founder of Safeguard, a company committed to protecting the lives of workers around the world by delivering real-time insights that can prevent the next safety accident. Safeguard designs, develops, and supplies real-time safety management tools and applications for a variety of industries worldwide. Prior to founding Safeguard, two other California-based startups in the healthcare sector. Interesting move. Also joining us is Oded Eliashiv, one of the managing partners of BuildUp Ventures. Oded leads the BuildUp Ventures team in identifying, choosing, and leading the best startups Israel has to offer on their journey to success. An entrepreneur since birth, Oded has founded and led several startups to success, including IPOs. And Uri Fishelson is the head of technology scouting services at Deloitte Catalyst Israel. He leads the delivery team supporting global and Israeli corporates who are looking to engage and partner with the Israeli innovation ecosystem. Before joining Deloitte, Uri led the technology scouting investments and partnerships activities for BASF in Israel. Wow. Okay, my name is Aviv Frenkel, and I will lead this panel. After 20 years in Israel national media, including as a senior tech and automotive correspondent and anchorman, I've decided to become an entrepreneur myself. Today, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Enroute, a startup in the smart mobility ecosystem, and I'll be happy to share also my perspective as an entrepreneur in this panel as well. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Dima, let's start with you maybe. After the first wave of construction tech startups, we understand that the major challenge is the implementation process of the technology within corporations. What are the biggest challenges you are facing while implementing the digitization process with construction corporation? what is its uniqueness?
As an early stage startup, the biggest challenge for successful implementation is first of all to find the right first customers, the right construction companies to start working with. But it's not enough. As we all know, it is all about people. So you must find the right partners within the construction company.
The champions.
Yes, the people that are, your solution will give them the biggest value and that they're open for changes. Eventually, your success or failure depends on the ability to deliver meaningful value for your customers in a short period of time. At ConWize, we work with standard departments. This is the most secret departments in construction companies. So the uniqueness that we feel is that there is no place for any errors. We must approach our customers only when we have a solution that covers all major parts of tendering process. The implementation period must be short. We must provide first-class support. And of course, we have to be ready to run fast, be able to make changes and add-ons to the product with short deadlines. So, and I believe that these tips can be applied also to other startups in the construction tech industry.
How difficult is it to penetrate these companies, these sometimes old school companies?
Yes, this is why you need to to choose the right places to start a pilot, and even better to start multiple pilots, because there is a factor, human factor, not everything will succeed from day one. So you need to make few pilots, and hopefully some of them will succeed in first stage.
And convert to being paying customers, right?
Exactly.
Talking about the human factor, it's like why safety is one of the biggest pains of this industry, and how do you help change the pain into a gain?
That's a good question. First of all, safety is massive in construction. In the US, we can see that it's growing year after year, the incident and accidents. And from our experience, the reason is that the way safety is managed around the world and with the technologies available today is in segmented processes. It means that it's not accumulated to one safety comprehensive, and all the process of management is divided between many departments. And also the nature of the industry, that it's dependent on foreign worker and a lot of transition within the construction sites that create a lot of uncertainty and continuity. And we identify also a very big issue in being able to create one ecosystem that can deal with all of that. And the way to deal and convert it to gain is by putting together a complete operational solution that accumulate all the factors that can impact safety, but also connect to the business mainstream connectivity and productivity, and not just forms and paperless, but also to be able to attach your product to other aspects of the operation. The solution need to be comprehensive with a complete ecosystem that can touch the regulator, can touch the training and education, can touch insurance companies, can touch subcontractors. So you need to be able that the solution can impact or integrate with all this ecosystem. And I think the last factor is the technology that need to deal with that need to be a platform rather a software or specific solution, because the platform can accumulate a lot of technologies, built-in technologies or external, like integration with smart cameras, sensors, a lot of components into the ecosystem that can provide a complete solution. And I think safety is about real time. And if construction groups in general will understand that it's not about just being compliant, but also converting the ability to manage safety in real time, and then based on that take decision and apply actions toward these decisions, the problem can be solved.
It's a big issue also here in Israel.
Yes, but we see that customers that utilize our platforms, in 2017, about 30% of the severe injuries and fatal injuries belong to our clients, our customer base. And today, in 2020, last year, less than 7% of the injuries belong to our customer base, which also grew. So we see that technology can help, effective technology. And it's also, of course, all these companies invested more in safety and put more into technology to protect the sites, but the technology also reflected to them the effectiveness of the means they input into the site. So we see that a lot of progress was done, and the problem can be solved, can be achieved.
Oded, tell us a bit about BuildUp Ventures, please.
Sure, and also would like to reflect on what my these two friends, which I'm very familiar with. BuildUp Ventures is something that I, back in 2019, I kind of noticed that there was a trend of, innovation, technology trying to get into the real estate arena. And I said I want to be part, of the leading actors here and start, building the ecosystem. So I started with launching a fund that was, motivation was to invest solely in PropTech and ConstructionTech companies. And I think during the Corona, we see the acceleration of adoption of technologies because people want to get back to life, they want to get back to business. And I think what Dima said before in respect to choosing the right partner in the construction, I think it's vital because, especially when you're talking about early stage companies, you have to be certain. That's one of our criteria of seeing where to invest is the product market fit. But still, this ecosystem is young. Construction companies, they want to implement a new technology. There are a lot of different missing blocks that are not there yet. Literally, right? Exactly. So in getting a startup into their organization, it's something that requires a lot of understanding that they should be an early adapter, that they're willing to take the risk. That's actually what I'm doing since the Abraham Accords was signed back in September. I'm being in the Emirates, so my agenda is pushing the Israeli tech companies and the PropTech and ConstructionTech, and we're doing an amazing job over there. We're going to see paid pilots, by the way, with the biggest players over there, and also safety and efficiency are the two very important things in the construction sites. And I think we have a lot to say here in the startup nation, which is, I think we can call it more scale-up nation. It may be
right now, yeah.
Right, and we're also number one in the world per capita for being a unicorn, per capita. So basically, and the real estate arena and the technology getting together is something I believe that we can play a very enormous, part in the global sphere.
Why did you decide to focus on PropTech and ConstructionTech?
Well,
no other players in this field?
First, no other players, first and foremost. Second, I've been in this industry, I myself, started a few companies, did exits, succeeded, also failed. And I looked and saw that the evolution of new sectors, new verticals in Israel has a pattern. So I want to be part of this pattern, and I want to be, an influential player. And when we come in and invest, we don't just put capital. We help in the company building with the go-to-market, identifying the product market fit, making sure that there is deep technology or some other aspect that is very important for getting the companies to growth. And helping them get to the markets. I think that's something which is very important, especially when you're talking about early stage. So you see the evolution here in Israel, you see that worldwide, you see how the things are progressing. And I think it's an exciting time here when you see the industry is growing. So for my personal point of perspective, I'm still an entrepreneur, right? So I'm being an entrepreneur from the other side.
You're laughing.
Yes, entrepreneur is a weird life to be entrepreneur because it's you always look out in the window what you can make different. Every day is exciting because you want to push forward, and I see that the spirit, the sense of humor, the optimism. It's a charm. It's a kind of charm.
It's a roller coaster, and it's
not all the time. It's fun.
Yeah. You
on a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Uri, as one of the largest business consulting firms working with corporates and startups, how do you at Deloitte see the digital revolution in the construction industry here?
Great, Aviv. So first of all, I think it's important to remember that when we look at the construction industry at large, we see the construction industry as lagging behind many of the other industries. At the end of the day, the construction industry is still slow in adopting digital solutions and going through a digital transformation. And that saying actually means that there's a lot of opportunity for growth. And Oded mentioned he was one of the first, and I'm sure we will see more investors coming into the space of construction, because as one of the largest industries by far in the world, construction needs these solutions to make it more efficient, safer, and smarter. And this is definitely something that we are seeing. I think where we do see an implementation of technologies, there are different technologies that are sort of in focus right now, and I'm sure we will see many more coming up in the future. Solutions like smart beam systems. Of course, we already had sort of legacy systems in place, but now we're seeing much smarter and more advanced systems, and we will see more and more of that. Technologies like predictive maintenance that allow the actual usage and smarter maintenance of the machinery that people use, that companies use. Solutions like drones that allow for better safety issues, for better efficiency and knowledge of what the actual construction site looks like, and allows the constructor who maybe sits in an office to really have eyes on the ground of what's happening in the construction site and knowing what's going on. And of course, we can't remember the supply chain, which we saw during COVID had a very strong impact on construction, but also practically every other industry. And I think when we look at it in the construction industry, there will be a lot of value in creating smarter systems to allow for underground monitoring of what's happening with the resources needed by construction companies, and through that allow companies to be more efficient, work quickly, and be on time. One of the bigger problems in the construction industry is finishing and completing solutions on time, and this is something that costs a lot of money both to the construction companies themselves and their clients. And this is somewhere where technology, whether supply chain or the other technologies I mentioned, can play a very important pivotal role in making these things change and making more projects finish on time and allow better usage of resources in this industry. So these are some of the examples in terms of technologies. And maybe one important point I'd like to mention is the topic of partnerships. I think still in the construction industry, risk is an inherent element, and many companies still...
Risk averseness.
Exactly. Many companies are still looking to understand how they can mitigate risk when they're implementing technology, while other industries are sort of accepting that risk and saying, okay, this taking and implementing technology is risky, but we accept it, we'll fail some, we'll win some, that's fine. In the construction industry, there's still a learning curve, and to support that, more partnerships are being held, either with one another, so even within competitors, but also up and down the value chain. And these partnerships help mitigate and spread the risk along the industry. And we see more and more of that all over the world. And I think this will definitely be an element that will help more technologies come to maturation and really be implemented.
Guys, why is it so challenging? Because this industry is huge but fragmented. What are the main challenges?
I think first of all, they're conservative, sector, and they're accustomed for decades of working in a certain manner, and
sometimes centuries.
Exactly. I didn't want to say that, but it's true, and basically, it is very, very complicated to bring change. There's so many different components within the organization, and find the system. And we're working a lot with different construction companies, and they're asking us to also help them with building the methodology of how to bring innovation into their organization. So this is actually what we're doing now in the Emirates, in Dubai, and Abu Dhabi, is because they see a lot of different companies coming in, okay? How do they cope with that? They don't know. They really don't know. So they're trying to strategize their approach. And I think that is also something that we need to understand, and we need to understand that in order for them to be really able to implement, then there needs to be some kind of, we talked about partnerships, right? These kind of partnerships need to be there in place in order to enable them to get those innovations inside in a methodical way. So it's not just about a construction company and a startup. There needs to be some kind of a bridge. And that is part of what we're actually, what I'm trying to do with the different players.
Izhak, you wanted to say?
Yes, the construction sector is project-based. So sometimes construction companies can have a lot of projects simultaneously, and sometimes they can wait a year until they have a new project. So the incentive for them to integrate technology is limited because they have a lot of uncertainty in the way their business work. The second thing is time compression. When I work in a factory, in the industry sector, then the life cycle, 30, 40, 50 years life cycle. Here we have 24 to 36 months of a factory ad hoc that need to execute a project in high capacity of workers and a lot of uncertainty. Now, if you bring in pilot technology that may slow down the project that already have a time constraint, you put at risk sometimes millions, depends on how complicated the technology. So it's not as easy to implement technology in construction companies. Because of this, it's a built-in issue. So the main idea here, the way we see it, they look for incremental innovation. I spoke with Zuri about that also in our previous preparing to this meeting. Incremental innovation, where the solution need to be not as crazy and disruptive, but incremental innovation that it's very easy to implement. They look for financial capabilities. The company that work with them need to show financial strengths because they're afraid of risk. By themselves, they are very risky operation, and they want to see experience. And that's the issue of experience need to be understanding when you design the product. And also when we design the product, we design delivery system. And that's related to what you said. Because a product without a delivery system cannot be attached to the construction sector. So that's a problem we have with when we present investors. Investors come and want the SaaS software fast, burnout model. We want to see how it's going fast. But in construction tech, it's not going to work like that because you need to have with the product effective delivery system because you need to implement within a project. And that's something that our investor not completely understand. And investment doesn't really understand how is to build a success in this business. And that's a challenge that we see in the industry. But overall, time help us
to educate the market.
Yes, we technically educated the Israeli market on safety and overall technology. We created the ground for a lot of startups. And it's a big toll to educate industry how to implement, how to utilize. It's serious effort.
Dima.
Yeah, I would like to add two more aspects to this. Construction, one of the things that is unique in it is a lot of stakeholders, owners, managing company, general contractors, subcontractors, suppliers, and you need to make it all work together. And this is one. The second is on the execution stage, the project manager, a lot of tasks is on him. He is in center. So if you come with a pilot and you're not showing him in short period of time big value, you just disturb him to do other stuff that all day running.
So you need to be to the point, you need to be very accurate in the value proposition.
Yeah, and I also believe that you must come with working POC and of course speak the language of the project manager.
Stop the talk and walk on, because you know, and especially this is something that here in the industry we need to understand. Real estate, they talk in a different language. Now, techies, they talk in their language, right? And there needs to be a bridge in understanding. So there are companies, that we see that the entrepreneurs, they're fifth generation builders, but not all of them are there in that kind of language. So basically it's also very important to reflect to what you two mentioned before. It's a low hanging fruit, the right kind of, and keep it simple, KISS. Keep it simple and also stupid sometimes to really get into the organization, put your foot inside, and then you can, build more and more innovation and more technology, but just get inside there with simplicity.
I think Oded mentioned a very important word, which is the bridge. He mentioned the bridge between the techies and the construction veterans. I think another bridge that we encounter very often as an issue is the issue between a startup, the state of mind of a startup, and the state of mind of a corporate, of a large company that's really having a hard time to adjust to the timelines and the language and the needs and the requirements of a startup. I think we oftentimes find ourselves trying to really find a way to match the expectations between the large company and the startup, and creating that as Oded said, the bridge is really something that can help facilitate an actual connection and a relationship between the two companies. I think this, giant and small company, this tension, dwarf. I think this tension is oftentimes what prevents companies from even starting a process, from even moving from just talking to an actual POC. And once they understand that state of mind, and they understand, very importantly, and it was mentioned here, the value they can get from it. And the value can be money, plain and simple, but the value can be fewer accidents, the value can be better even perception of the company as an innovative company. Many companies say, okay, who do I want to work with? I want to work with innovative companies. We see it everywhere. And this kind of perception comes from working with startups and putting it out there, that you do it, that you work with startups and so on. So I think this is very important in creating that bridge. And we work a lot in doing exactly that, in that education to the startups and the education to the corporates.
And translation.
And
education and translation, right?
Exactly.
So we had an outstanding year in investments, a lot of new unicorns, IPOs, SPACs, etc. So seeing these trends, Oded, what do you anticipate as the main trends of the future? And when will we have the first ConstructionTech unicorn?
It's hard to predict.
Yeah.
I can tell you that I have access to all the deal flow in Israel, and they're amazing things. And we're doing more and more investments. Just signed two couple more investment agreements recently. The amount of deal flow that is growing and growing in Israel is amazing. When will be the next unicorn? Well, hopefully soon. But the industry is really, and it's important to understand that the technology that are being implemented in the construction tech, they're already here, for many, many years. They're just being packaged and modeled to fit a new sector. So you talk about fintech, you talk about cyber, you talk about mobility. All these things are in this arena, and they're playing an important part here. So I think it'll be sooner than later. We will see some interesting things happening. I can't tell you the names of companies, but I can tell you.
You can, why not?
You have to pay me something. But I'm joking. We're seeing our portfolio companies getting into very serious discussions with industry players that there is a play there for M&As. So it won't take a day or two. It'll take a bit more time. But I'm very optimistic, and I think we have the opportunity of being a global player in this arena.
Guys, what do you think? How does this environment of SPACs and IPOs impact your ecosystem?
It's risky. It's risky to our ecosystem because construction tech at this stage is underpriced. And when you are underpriced, it's very hard to compete on talents. So the technology that you can deliver in order to evolve is very challenging, because a construction tech company in certain stage need to move from startup to more robust technologies, and it requires a very, very competent team, very serious experience, cyber protection, a lot of servers, different set of skills that require big money. But the transition of this SPAC that come from a different markets, more fast markets, is impacting companies that their incubation process to become a unicorn probably can be double. Mm-hmm. I don't feel that a unicorn in the ecosystem will be that easy to achieve at this phase, because the scalability is harder, but it probably will be double the time. So if I see a unicorn like Iron Source that was unicorn, I think in 12 years, I think unicorn will take the incubation process about 15 years to unicorn to incubate in that in the construction tech ecosystem, because of the delivery issues. Mm-hmm. And the value that the market perceive it is different, again, because it's a project-based industry. Mm-hmm. So there is a lot of complex thing in order to get there. And,
Dima?
I think it's, in general, it's a good influence, because the traction of the Israeli mind, and it will definitely bring more money also to the construction tech as to other industries.
So it trickles down also to construction tech.
I think a
there's
bit.
a lot of money. Uri, what do you think?
Well, I think one issue that the construction industry has, or construction tech specifically, it's one of those specific industries where there is an expectation from companies raising money to have already revenues and sometimes even profits. You can see it in agriculture technologies, you can see it sometimes even in food tech. There's an expectation that a very early stage company would already have revenues and profit. And I think this is making it very hard for them to raise more money as opposed to other, if you think fintech or cyber, where you can have an idea or the basic solution and you can already raise large amounts. This changes in some areas. I think in agriculture, for example, there's a shift away from that to understanding the future value. And I think this will, when this happens also in the construction industry, raising money will be faster, and also the path towards an IPO and becoming a unicorn.
I think there will be more and more investors coming in, like you mentioned before, and I think that's very, very crucial for the industry, especially when talking about early stage investments. And we always talk about what are the aspects of Israel being a startup nation, right? You have to have all the different pieces of an ecosystem being there, and part of that is investors. The other part is like the Israeli Innovation Authority, providing funding, non-dilutive funding for technologies and so forth. So it's a lot of different aspects that need to evolve, and I think it does take a bit of time. But I think from what I see, what I hear when I'm talking, I see the industry is picking up, and there you see more and more players coming inside at different places, and that will actually, at the end of the day, will contribute to the industry getting to the right place.
Oded, Tachlis, last question.
Yeah.
I'm an early stage startup. You're an investor. What are you looking for?
Well, first of all,
and what do you offer?
First of all, we look at the people. First and foremost, we want to see a team and that are very entrepreneurial, that have the ability to execute. We invest not in a PowerPoint. We invest in a company that is already being able to execute vision to some kind of product. I don't expect them to have a 100% build product or solution, but something there.
A POC.
Yeah, and some traction in the market, and the potential to maybe disrupt the market, to accelerate their market traction, and my ability to help them. Because if I can't help them, then we're not looking to put in just capital. We're looking for a partnership.
Amazing. Okay. Dima, Izhak, Oded, and Uri, thank you so much. It was really interesting talking to you this morning. And now on to the next thing. I want to remind you all that our startups are waiting for you in the virtual exhibition. You can meet them there face to face on live video, get more information, network, and explore possible cooperation. Don't miss this great opportunity. And now we're moving to our next session, investing in construction tech, R&D, and VC. In 2020, despite the COVID-19 pandemic, global construction tech startups raised nearly $1.4 billion. This is more than 50% growth year over year. However, when we talk about investing in technology, investing is not limited to venture capital alone. Investing also refers to how much money companies and startups put into research and development. The session will take place in two halls simultaneously. In the main hall, the first lecture discusses open innovation and sustainability for the building materials industry. Please welcome Bengt Steinbrecher, Head of Digital Partnerships at LafargeHolcim and co-founder of LafargeHolcim startup MAQER. Together with Bengt, we'll present Pritesh Gandhi, the lead of digital transformation at LafargeHolcim. Prior to joining LafargeHolcim, he has had experience launching companies at the intersection of technology and behavior change. At the same time, in Hall 2, you can listen to 3 lectures, right? Dr. Jeremy Brown will speak about investing in the construction tech industry. Jeremy is an investment principal at Fundamental Investing globally in early stage ConTech startups. Jeremy holds an MBA from Stanford Graduate School of Business and a PhD in geophysics from Stanford. Afterwards, Marcelino Diaz, a ventures analyst at Plug and Play, will talk about construction trends and success story. Marcelino graduated from SJSU in 2018 and has been networking and connecting with entrepreneurs since. And the third speaker in Hall 2 will be Christopher Lengitza, the Vice President of Global Partnerships and Alliances at Procore Technologies. Chris has been a long-time construction technology evangelist and continues to push the construction industry forward. So here we go, to you, Bengt Steinbrecher.
Welcome to the Construction 4.0 event hosted by ConTech. My name is Bengt Steinbrecher and I'm the head digital partnerships of HolcIM. I'm here today with my colleague Pritesh Gandhi, who is the digital lead transformation. We are both parts of the digital innovation unit at HolcIM. But before we start to talk about how we are collaborating with startups, I want to share a few words about HolcIM and our ambition and why you as startups and investors should be excited about working together with us. Maybe the most impactful trend in the last decades for mankind has been urbanization. Cities like New Delhi, they grew from 10 million inhabitants in 1990 to 30 million inhabitants in 2020. And this trend is going to continue for the next years, with more than 2 billion people moving into urban areas in the next 25 years. And what is amazing about that is that 60% of the infrastructure which will be needed for that still has to be built. So it means we have to build a city the size of New York every other month for the next 25 years. And we can only solve that challenge if we are building greener, smarter, and for all. As HolcIM, we are well positioned to disrupt how the construction industry will build in the future. With more than 2,000 sites globally and a representation in more than 70 countries, we are covering the full value chain from the quarry to the cement plant, the whole supply chain to the construction site. With this, we are convinced that we can drive the innovation of the construction industry. Now, Pritesh, share with us what you think about open innovation.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. Appreciate that. And I think it's one of the key reasons why we at the company have established the MAQER unit, the HolcIM MAQER unit, as we talk about. The idea behind the HolcIM MAQER unit has been primarily to create a platform for members of the open innovation community to really engage with us on a very active basis. And what we've done here is rather than being a venture investor or a corporate venture arm that you may see in other large corporates, it's really to flip the model to become more of a venture client model, where we bring the vast scale that Bengt was just referring to, the large global footprint that exists within our network, and make it available to startups and to innovative new solutions to really help address the most pressing challenges within the organization. It's a way for these organizations, these small startups or these emerging players in various different areas, to really be able to affect the entire industry rather than just one player. We realize that this is really the way to create the scale and to create the impact that makes a real change in the way that we do things as an industry player.
And I think we can mention there some examples, Pritesh, right? I mean, for example, Zello, which you might know as kind of the push-to-talk app, which works a little bit like walkie-talkies, which we have been able to integrate in our own customer-facing platform, and which allows now to communicate between construction site people with the truck drivers delivering the concrete and the dispatcher. And this functionality, this solution is available on more than 40,000 construction sites across North America. So I think a great example to show how such a solution can scale with us and within the construction industry. Or another example could be actually an Israeli company, Make My Day, which together with our business in Brazil has developed a solution which helps to schedule and route the trips of the sales force that we have in Brazil. With this successful pilot that they did there, a rollout was later then done in Brazil, and now they are scaling the whole solution across the whole of Latin America. So I think two cool examples how a startup can work together with us and how we can help them to scale across geographies and within the construction industry.
And Bengt, thanks for sharing two, I think, very relevant examples that affect core activities within our business. We talked about the health and safety with Zello. We talked about what we can do with our commercial activities with Make My Day. And I think that those are the traditional aspects that most of our industry players are very well aware of, health and safety planning, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that one piece that is very important and something that LafargeHolcim is committed to has been the idea of sustainability. We are an organization that is focused very squarely on this. We've recently signed a net zero pledge, and it's something that we take seriously across the entire value chain for the organization. So I wanted to share a quick 90-second video that walks through what that means and how we're able to really introduce digital solutions to the idea of sustainability and how they play hand in hand. So if you allow me, I'll go ahead and just share this. Right.
We are here in Boston, Massachusetts, on the campus of Boston University, on one of the busiest streets in Massachusetts on a very rainy Saturday morning. And it is a very large, more than 4,000 cubic yard core of the EcoPack mix. With process and product innovation, we are able to make this one of the most sustainable cores LafargeHolcim has ever done. We have connected all of our back-end systems digitally, directly with the customer. So at their fingertips are every ticket, every truck, every status of every truck to ensure that that concrete is delivered in 90 minutes or less. Concrete Direct allows every one of the stakeholders to have their own view of each individual truck to allow them to perform their tasks independently and safely on a job site like this.
At LafargeHolcim, our commitment to a sustainable future is stronger than ever. We are very proud to couple both product and process innovation at the Boston University Data Science Center. With EcoPack, this site has the lowest carbon product available as of today. And with Concrete Direct, the entire process was digitized without any paper whatsoever.
Yeah, I think, Pritesh, this is really a super cool example how we are trying to combine the product and process innovation kind of in one platform and making that available for the customer. And I think also what was mentioned in the video about kind of the connectivity and how the different data sources can be combined now here in one way and making that available again for the different stakeholders to create more transparency, to find more value-adding solutions and so on. So how does that now work for a startup? How can a startup collaborate with us and how can it leverage now on such a platform?
So I think you all heard that this process that we talked about in the video, as well as what we're doing as an organization, is again, as I said before, doubling down our commitment to sustainability. And what that means for us as an organization is we do have that product piece, which obviously we are continuing to make big strides on. But the startup community can really help us engage on some of the the process piece. So many of the examples that you might see in other industries, that are analogous to us being able to deliver product and to manage logistics and manage the very real-time supply chain that we have within our industry, can really be applied to the kinds of challenges that we have. Being able to find opportunities to reduce wait time, to create a better products, to reduce the waste that sometimes does occur at these kinds of sites, and to eliminate a lot of this, what I would say, peripheral impact that occurs that will also have a real impact in the overall sustainability. So I feel like we have a very rich space for startups to come in and engage with us to learn about how we can make a complex system even better for us to operate. But I think even more importantly, maybe, is the notion of scale. So what I find as a previous entrepreneur running startups myself, sometimes the challenge ends up being, okay, it's interesting, but it only applies to a small niche. Here at the LafargeHolcim's Concrete Company initiative, it's really about offering our entire scale. And these numbers that I'm sharing here are actually even a little bit more outdated, because this is maybe about less than 30 days ago, and this continues to grow. So we have 45,000 job sites connected throughout North America, millions and millions of cubic meters of concrete being placed on a regular basis. Several thousand kilometers being logged, and hundreds of thousands of hours being saved. And being able to come in as a startup organization, as a entrepreneurial organization, to try to address the kind of scale that we offer, I believe is very unique. And it gives you the opportunity to say, can we make a very rapid change within the organization by making these changes in the way that we use our operating model. So I think there's a lot of opportunity here. I'm very excited about being able to use our Concrete Company initiative to introduce new ways to understand data, to look at utilization, to look at productivity, to understand how we can better service our customers, and how we can ultimately create a better product for our users in and across the entire global footprint.
Wow, I think that's an amazing opportunity, and I think there are a lot of startups out there and investors who learn now a bit more about these opportunities and think that's where they exactly can start to interact with the construction material industry. And I think that's the call to action from our side. I mean, if you think now this is interesting from your perspective, then please reach out to us, get in contact with this email, contact2021@lhmaker.com, and we will be looking forward to see your innovative solution working in the construction material industry. Thank you.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Do you also combine IoTs and sensors in your solution?
Thanks, Aviv. That's a great question. I think it's certainly something that we are very eager to understand more of. One of the things that we are seeing in the entrepreneurial community, in the innovation ecosystem, is that more and more in the Construction 4.0 ecosystem, there's been innovations in sensors to give micro-level data on the construction site, to give you insights into things that you may never have had before. And we're seeing a greater embrace towards creating opportunities for those conversations to occur. I think that one of the things that we're seeing on the ready-mix side is to create more of this pragmatic view. Can we find ways to say, what does it mean for me? How do I change my behavior? Given the fact that it's a very much a real-time industry, decisions are being made in a very dynamic basis. Things are changing all the time. And can you bring the insights that matter in the right location. So contextual information that can be provided by these sensors, these IoT devices, is really more and more important than it used to be. So not just seeing a report post facto, so 2 weeks after the pour, but really giving you behavior change analytics real time.
And how do you work with startups? What's the process?
Yeah, thanks for following up on this one. Our ambition is to find new solutions out there which help to create additional value for our customers and to build kind of a digital ecosystem. So our objective is really to become then in the end the customer for you as a startup and to kind of purchase your solution that you're offering. And to do that, we are doing a short proof of concept, which usually takes between, let's say, 2 to maybe 4 or 5 months, where we are testing very easily your existing solution in our business environment. So we are really testing that on the ground with the business people to see if it works and if it delivers kind of on the expectations that you had and that we had as a business. And only after that proof of concept, we will decide then how to move on. And obviously the targeted outcome would be that everybody's satisfied and we can move into commercial negotiations to become a long-term reference customer for you as a startup. And we are really excited to hear about your thoughts, how we can work together and build this digital ecosystem for the construction industry, and in that sense, looking forward to many ideas. Thanks a lot, Aviv, for having us here, and thanks to all the startups and investors for participating and coming up with great ideas.
Thank you, Bengt and Pritesh. Now, please welcome Gonzalo Galindo, Managing Director at Cemex Ventures. He will share an example from Cemex Ventures of an open innovation platform looking for disruption in the ConTech ecosystem. Gonzalo joined Cemex 20 plus years ago, and since 2016, he is the head of Cemex Ventures, where he promotes the construction revolution by working with innovative startups.
Welcome, ConTech community. Thank you for being here today from wherever you are. My name is Gonzalo Galindo, currently Managing Director of Cemex Ventures, the corporate venture arm and open innovation unit of Cemex, the heavy building materials company based in Mexico, but with operations in more than 60 countries around the world. Today, I'm going to try to explain you why we created Cemex Ventures and what we aim to do with Cemex Ventures. We started these discussions about Cemex Ventures about 5 years ago. And this is what we actually saw it was happening in the industry. We saw an industry which was very low in productivity, very resilient to receive innovation, with very low investments in innovation, and really with not big changes. It's not that we want the construction industry to become another car industry, which is very standardized and looking for the next step of productivity. This is a different industry. It's an industry based on projects. It's an industry where a lot of people participate. No? But we thought that we were really in an industry which was ripe for disruption at some point. And we, as a building material supplier, we felt we were very, very vulnerable to those disruptions, because by the time somebody takes the decision to order a concrete truck from us, so many decisions were taken in which we don't participate, that we knew that this industry was to be disrupted. We were very vulnerable. And this is why we decided to create Cemex Ventures. Cemex Ventures in nature was an entity aiming to take the innovation in Cemex beyond the core. We knew that we could do a lot of innovation in our manufacturing processes, in our products, logistics, interface with our clients, and so on. But if we wanted to be part of that disruption of the industry will take place, we needed to take that innovation forward into more transformational things, jump into the digital transformation bandwagon, be more aggressive in R&D, and at some point, go beyond into most disruptive business models. Disruptive business model or usage of technology, which can create not only a better Cemex to help a much more disruptive and different construction industry, but a Cemex which can actually create business models and create business out of those business models for the future of the company. And this is exactly what we try to do with Cemex Ventures. Not only work on innovation, but be part or lead the innovation or the disruption, and as we call it in our logo, foster construction innovation. No? What we did in the early days, we actually took a lot of time to talk with a lot of people across the value chain. We talk with contractors, engineers, financiers, plumbers, architects, you name it, with every single people which could be involved in a construction project at different segments, all the way from the people working in the big bridge to the people working in the small housing project or a renovation. No? And after discussing with them, trying to understand the technologies, the trends that the industry was really taking care, or the areas of opportunities, we come with the conclusion that there were 6 areas in which we could focus our work. The first one was what we call cities, smart cities and buildings, which has basically to do with urban planning, with decarbonization, waste management, new energy sources, the energy efficiency of the buildings itself, and so on. No? The second had to do with project design and engineering, which are things like budgeting, material specifications, BIM management, BIM modeling, project design, etc. No? The third has to do with supply chain management, which I believe is probably one of the most important ones, which has to do with making sure materials arrived on job sites on time, on quality, and on price. No? It's about inventory management, fleet management, making sure having visibility throughout the whole supply chain. The fourth one has to do with project and job site management, everything which has to do with planning and scheduling, documentation, communication and collaboration among everybody at the job site, health and safety compliance, productivity monitoring, how the job site is moving forward with plans, are we on time, and things like that. No? Then we have the other one, which I believe is also very important, which is innovative building materials and construction methods, things to have to do with offsite construction, 3D printing, how we actually perceive and how we actually go about building, erecting things in the future. And also the effect that they will have in the current building materials and the future of the building materials in itself, and new building materials, in order to make sure that we can actually use those new construction technologies more properly. And last but not least, which is something very important for this industry as well, is investment and financing. This is an industry with a very uneven distribution of wealth. You have very few people, mostly bankers and developers, which consolidate close to half of the profits that are created in the industry. And then you have all the rest, including building material suppliers, contractors, services providers, and so on, which have to fight for the rest. So it's an industry which in general people have fairly small profits, or very slim profits, and this is really about how projects are financed, how working capital is financed, and so on. And we believe that can be improved substantially. This, as I mentioned, became kind of the areas of prospecting for potential work for Cemex Ventures. But it wasn't only beneficial for Cemex Ventures. We actually help our company, our parent company, Cemex, to go about them, to understand them, and to really make strategies around them, to strategies which actually help them to move forward and create a company which is more accordant, building materials company which is more in accordance to the future of construction, and not only be a simple material supplier, but also create additional businesses which might create additional revenue streams for Cemex in the future. Once we lay down all this prospect, it was about to really spread out wings and make it happen. No? And to make it happen in the open innovation front is really about becoming and creating an open ecosystem of people which can work with you. No? The open innovation is one of the great places in which people is not at its own. It's a place where people has to interact with a lot of people to actually know better what's happening. And in this sense, we actually work very hard starting to create a network of people. We have a network of more than 100 people and partners that we have formal discussions about the future of construction, the future of materials, the future of everything which is related to our business. No, we are very active participants in conferences and events, not only as speakers, but also as listeners, and really trying to understand what's people's mind about the future of construction. We actually try to create some content, like our newsletter that we created, we call the ConTech Tacos. No, we try to, every couple of weeks, we try to have a discussion, open discussion in the internet about future of construction and innovation. We actually didn't stop only creating the network, we actually started to collaborate with people in the network. No? For example, we launched 5 years ago what we call the Construction Startup Competition. It is probably the largest startup competition in the construction world today. It was only a Cemex effort, Cemex Ventures effort, but over the last couple of years, we actually partnered with other players like Ferrovial, like Hilti, Saint-Gobain, Vinci, Haskell in the US, or GS Group in Korea, to actually make this competition more relevant and actually more rich in terms of the discussions and the definition of which startups are really the ones which will be more successful in the future. No? And also from collaboration, we actually started to move into much more deeper partnerships. For example, we have created with some of those network partners already joint ventures to create a offsite panelized construction concept in Spain, which we are joint venturing with them. We are having collaboration agreements with a couple of startups which can help us to develop technologies to decarbonize, to extract CO2 and use CO2 in the whole construction value chain, for example. And also, in doing so, we try to create a reference by becoming a trusted and respected partner in this industry, which is by becoming one of the top leading investors in the construction value chain, and also creating content, as I mentioned, with the ConTech Tacos, or creating our ConTech startup list. Every year we launch the 50 startups that we believe are the most influential in the moment, and so on. And it's in an effort to actually create a reference to other people that when you come to Cemex Ventures, it's a trusted partner. You can talk about innovation in construction. Over the last 5 years, almost 4.5, 5 years, we have already have very good results. In my view, we have already a portfolio of close to 15, 16 startups, ranging in all sorts of trades. Some of them very close to the core of Cemex. For example, Go4, it's a last mile delivery company, which will help us to actually manage our supply chain much better. We have other companies, for example, in the urbanization solution front, in the industrial construction front, looking to the future of construction, like Modulus, which is a company which has to do with offsite construction in a very unique digital way. We are also going into sustainability with concepts like Soil Connect or ArcLight, which are very deep into recycling of materials. Also, we have, for example, issues in job site management, like construction site. We have issues in energy storage, like Energy Vault. So, as you see, we're trying to go across all those areas of interest and start to feeding things that some of them might be closer to the core, like Go4, for example, and some others potentially substantially beyond to whatever we believe the core is Cemex today, like Modulus or like Energy Vault. But who knows if we find a way to figure out ways to make business models that make Cemex successful in those fronts. But at least in the process, I'm sure that these companies and these investments are teaching us a lot, helping us to go about innovation in the construction world, but also providing the opportunity to those startups to grow and to create their dreams come true in some sort. So in a nutshell, this is what I believe Cemex Ventures is. I hope this has been an important and relevant discussion for you with useful information. I'm very happy to be here and share with you what Cemex Center was or is, and it will be. And hopefully we have the opportunity to interact in the future. Thank you very much, and I will now open the floor for questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Gonzalo. Seeing so many new trends emerging in construction tech, which do you see as having the greatest potential? And what do you think is still missing for them to break into mainstream construction?
Thank you, Aviv, for the question. I think these are tough questions. I think there's plenty of technologies which are not yet flown into the construction value chain, which will be very relevant in the future. But I think what in the point that we are, which is still very incipient in the construction disruption, is we still need to figure out how to use a lot of available technologies today in the benefit of improving construction. For example, supply chain is a good example. Supply chain has created unicorns by using digital technologies. None of that has actually making strong inroads into the construction value chain, and supply chain is probably 1/3 of the whole lack of productivity problem that we have. No? So I see a lot of efforts moving forward in supply chain, and other things will be really finding the right business model to create certain technologies successful. For example, 3D printing today, 3D printing, people believe we're going to build houses in 24 hours. Probably it's not the way we should use 3D printing. Probably it's more using them in an industrial environment, more control, and actually assemble things later on. But certainly one which is certainly the most relevant and the most urgent to take care of is climate change and climate action, decarbonizing our value chain. We are probably as a whole, the construction industry, the biggest emitters of CO2, and certainly one of the largest producers of waste. And still today, there's a lot of talking about sustainable and LEED and whatever, but honestly, we haven't done a lot as an industry. Half of the time of Cemex Ventures today is focused in decarbonizing our value chain and helping use and recycle materials into those technologies. And it's something that is not only the human right thing to do, it's actually also becoming a much more relevant issue for investors. Smart investors willing to put their money in people which are taking care of the planet. So climate change is certainly see as one of the key technologies or key areas of technology moving forward, which will be very relevant. Anyway, I was very, very happy to be here today, sharing whatever I could share, and hopefully it was helpful for you as well. I thank Aviv and the ConTech Israel people to inviting me to the Construction 4.0 event, and hopefully I'll see you next year as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Gonzalo. We also hope to see you next year in Tel Aviv. Our last speaker about investing in construction tech is Shay Biran, CEO of the Fund for the Development of the Construction Industry in Israel. Prior to that, Mr. Biran held several high-ranking positions in the Histadrut, Israel's labor union.
Hi, I'm Shay Biran, and for the past 5 years, I've been dealing with the construction sector, mainly on issues in health, safety, and wages under different positions. Now, I'm the CEO of a fund that was founded in 1990 by the Builders Association and the Construction Worker Union. It is funded by employers' contribution, and it supports the industry through professional training, safety, welfare, innovation, and other activities. I came to talk about the linkage between training and technology. And I'm going to start with the rationale for the investment in training. The economic incentive for training is described in this graph. You can see in the chart that the red columns are the investment, the initial investment in a new unskilled worker. After a time, the investment starts paying off, and we can see it with the green columns giving the return on the skilled employee work. In the construction sector, things work a bit differently. It's fragmented, subcontracted. Every subcontractor with different employees and workers come and goes, starting with the foundations, ending with glass, glazing, finishing work. The general contractors does not employ directly the employees, and he basically doesn't even know them. And it is trivial to say that he has no incentive to invest in their training. Also, the subcontractors has a very low incentive of investment in their workers' training. First, because the skills in the construction sector are transversal. It means that if you know how to put tiles, you know how to do it for any employers in any site. Also, after you've become a skilled Tyler, you can go to self-employment and say bye-bye to your old boss with very, very little constraints. The short-term employment in the sector means that there is very short-term planning horizon of HR, and the volatility of the business model means that when there's enough work, you can't spare even 1 day of work. But when there is not enough projects, then the workers just find other solutions in other employers or other sectors. And the low margins of subcontractors are detrimental to creating investment in training. So there's a lack of incentive to invest in training for both general contractors and subcontractors. But this is a lost transaction for the individual employer. As you can see, doesn't necessarily mean that it is a lost transaction for the entire sector. You can see the known chart from a few slides ago. We have the investment in the red columns. We have the return for the employer in a short and green column. And then the rest of the columns are basically what other employers would gain from a skilled employee moving in the sector. But the initial investment will not happen because it's a losing transaction for the individual employer. It means this lack of investment is a market failure that creates a phenomenon called skill shortage. The consequences of skill shortage are quality issues, high accident rates, prolonged construction schedules, low productivity, bad image, and a degenerated and outdated training institutions. With no incentive, there is no demand. With no demand, there is no supply. And technology could offset the skill shortage and its consequences. It can create high quality jobs that will attract people who wouldn't come today. It can give unskilled workers robots and other automated facilities to operate without high skills. It can allow us to build more with the same manpower, and it creates a safer work environment because of less manual operations. So, innovation in construction can boost up productivity, but this potential is very slow to materialize. Why? It is a universal phenomenon. Not only Israel, but other countries as well are experiencing low productivity. What you see is a chart showing the ratio between the productivity of the construction sector and the productivity of the general economy. You can see that in all countries it is less than 1, meaning lower than the average, and it is substantially lower than the average. The average is 70%. Israel is not unique. It is even slightly above average. My hypothesis is that similar factors create this market failure in both training and technological innovation. The process of making a good idea into reality starts with an idea and with mass production. But on the way, there is on-site experimentation. And it's a prerequisite, because without experimenting somewhere, no one would buy your technological innovative solution. But for that, volunteers are required. And you remember this chart? The same as training, the initial investment is a lost transaction for the contractor who volunteers to be experimenting a new material or new technology. And when it picks up and starts gaining productivity and efficiency, the entire global economy will enjoy it. And it has a very extreme downside, because a new method or material in a project might create bankruptcy for contractors. It means that it's not that complicated to understand why things are so slow to take up. Sectoral institutions can act as accelerators, creating more innovation and even attracting global capital. ConTech, which we know, our greenhouse that takes entrepreneurs into the sector and escorts them through the phases of creating a startup. Sectoral venture capital, which with expertise in construction technology, is something that we're working on right now and is very, very soon to materialize. A sectoral sandbox, a place where you can experiment both new training and new technologies and innovation in construction, giving it the chance to achieve critical mass in order to go to mass production. And how about training itself? Training can become more efficient, boosting productivity using digital solutions, but that doesn't happen when there's no incentive to invest in training. And sectoral facilities with economies of scale can help it function. And countries with functioning sectoral institutions can be more attractive to global investors who will have places to experiment new materials and technologies. Thank you. I was Shay Biran about the linkage between training and technology in the construction sector.
Thank you, Shay. Training is undoubtedly one of the keys to successful technology adoption. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very excited to present to you 4 entrepreneurs who made a long journey in raising significant funding doing the first IPO of ConstructionTech here in Tel Aviv, as well as working together with the largest global construction companies. I'm proud to announce the first cohort of ConTech's Hall of Fame startups. Let's welcome Tal Merizon, the CEO of Datumate. Tal has a vast experience in leading global growth stage startups, as well as mature privately or publicly owned high-tech companies. A strategic leader, Tal built a dedicated team of construction, civil engineering, geoinformation, and high-tech professionals, driving Datumate's leadership as innovators in the infrastructure construction space. Yair Sudri, the CTO and co-founder of BuildUp. Yakir and his 2 counterpart co-founders are graduates of the Talpiot Elite Program. He served for 10 years in the IDF's Intelligence Corps, leading R&D teams and groups working on complex cybersecurity systems. Leading BuildUp's R&D division, Yakir and his team developed an AI and computer vision algorithm that creates a digital twin of the construction site, documenting every detail of the construction process. Daniel Ivesha, chairman of Beyond 3D. Daniel Ivesha is an entrepreneur with a successful track record in the hotel and restaurant industry. His broad international background and business experience gives him a unique ability to connect with stakeholders in international enterprises. Danny Herman, co-founder and chief product officer of Versatile. Danny is a product manager at heart, building products that challenge the status quo is his true passion. He began his career as a software developer, taking a detour through pre-sales, sales, managing professional services, and finally, this path has led him to product. He holds a BSc degree in computer science and an MBA in finance. And Gali Bloch-Liran, a senior lecturer at the Adelson School of Entrepreneurship in the IDC Herzliya, a startup and VC executive coach working with all ConTech startups, and a podcaster. Check out her podcast, who will facilitate this live panel. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. So let's begin with a short video worth millions. Let's watch together what those startups are capable of.
Gilbane wants to be a leader in innovation, and our relationship with Versatile has allowed us to be on the front edge of new technology in the construction market.
I'm Merav Oren. I'm the CEO and very much proud co-founder of Versatile. Construction is really manufacturing, and job sites are factories. What if we could non-invasively get the data that we need out to help people control the process? We zoned in on the crane because it's almost like a control tower on a busy airport. And by going under the hook, we serve in a very non-intrusive, naturally fit into workflows. The multi-sensor approach under the hook really tells us the story of the job site. We're here to change sequences of events. I've always been amazed by the leadership and the innovation of the different teams that I've interacted with at Gilbane. And the team that we serve right now has done incredible things with the data. I can always see the best practices that shine out.
When the equipment arrived to the job site, it was just a matter of plug and play. Once the device was raised up, it was all go live from there. Crane view data comes to us on a daily basis based on the work performed the previous day. The daily digests are a great tool to see how effective we were in the field the previous day and what things we may need to change on the following day.
I get a daily email with a digest that tells me right off the bat how efficient they were, the utilization percentage. If I'm hoping to see something in the 90s. If I don't, I will dig deeper.
There's different data that we're able to get so we can see if there's any outliers. So we're able to go back and look at the camera footage, decide if this is something that we're possibly going to see over and over again. We're allowed to then plan around that. So I think a combination of getting the data in email form and then watch it real time remotely, it allows me to still be connected to the work. Being as safety conscious as we are, I think having the ability to look right down on top of the connectors, the riggers, the guys hooking the stuff up on the ground. If you see something like that, then you can get something corrected.
As a safety director, I'm able to use the information, the data points, and the video from CraneView to identify training needs and best practices, lessons learned that we can utilize on our projects for not only our Gilbane employees, but also our contractors. The data that I'm able to collect is really transforming our ordinary into the extraordinary.
Managing infrastructure construction projects is a race against time and a fight against deviations. Basing decisions on outdated information can cost you dearly. Datubim captures field data via drones to deliver critical metrics and actionable insight you need to better manage your site. Gain visibility with accurate, constantly updated digital twins of the as-built. Uncover deviations and solve problems promptly. Improve efficiency. Save time and money with our automated end-to-end process. Get engineering analytics and reports with survey-grade accuracy, delivered within hours, not weeks. Datubim checks every box. Visualization of work progress, visual inspection and quality assurance, comparison of actual to plan and cross-section delta reports, tracking of volumes, earthwork, schedule, and budget, digital documentation of the entire life cycle and custom reports. With our secure cloud-based software, you have all your project data and analytics when and where you need it. Easily share insights across teams to improve collaboration, to solve problems more efficiently and faster. Datubim, making construction data work for you.
Hi, I'm Sophie Morris. I'm a Customer Success Manager here at BuildUp. I trained as a civil engineer and pursued a career as a construction manager on site, previously working at MAQER. I'm very familiar with the industry and the type of client I face in my customer success role. When working on site, one of the biggest challenges I found was having enough hours in the day to deliver the project, but also communicate effectively with the team and keep the right type of records. For sure, if my previous project teams and I had had access to BuildUp, our life would have been a lot easier. I'll always remember from my first weeks of working with BuildUp, one of my clients told me, "This is the future." and I agree with him. But enough about me, here's a video which shows what BuildUp is all about.
Managing a construction site is a huge challenge that requires complete control over tens of thousands of details. With BuildUp, capturing progress data is as easy as doing a site walk. Wearing a hard hat-mounted 360 camera is all that the platform needs to create a digital twin of your construction site, documenting every single detail of the construction process. Based on this digital twin, the BuildUp Control Center app gives you detailed reports and a comprehensive view of your project to help you manage your resources and avoid delays, deviations from the schedule, incorrect installations, and partly completed tasks are all flagged instantly, making sure you're always in control. From weekly trade meetings to monthly valuations, BuildUp is specifically designed to suit your existing workflows. Leading construction companies across Europe already rely on BuildUp to increase margins, boost productivity, and get ahead of the competition. Book a free demo today at buildup.com.
Hi everybody, my name is Pascal and I am the construction lead for BuildUp UK. So my background, I used to work in the construction industry. I worked on site in New York City for multiple years. My main observation was the fact that technology wasn't being adopted on site as much as I wanted it to. So I wanted to be part of that change, and hence the role of BuildUp, which has really opened my eyes to bringing technology into the construction sector. So BuildUp offers a change that I've never seen in construction. I know that for a fact. What it does is it gives you a level of objectivity that I don't think the construction industry has ever had, and it allows you to look at a site team objectively without any bias and really make a difference on how your projects are run. The data that we collect, as I said, is objective, but also in the fact that how we use that data in terms of the program, the scheduling, and the error detection within our system is all ways that really are changing the industry for the better. So when I first heard about BuildUp, I sat down with one of the co-founders, Aviv, for an interview with him for the new job, and he showed me a bit of the tech, and I genuinely couldn't believe it. I didn't think it was real, because I'd been looking for this sort of solution for so long in my old role that suddenly it was presented to me, and it almost seemed too good to be true. And it turns out it's not. It's real, and it's actively deployed on sites all over the world right now.
We hope you enjoyed hearing a bit more about BuildUp today and how we're helping contractors work smarter and more efficiently.
And if you'd like any more information or a demo, please reach out to us on our website at www.buildup.com.
Hello everyone, it's very exciting to have you here with us. Israel is known as the startup nation, but nowadays there's a big emphasis on growing to be the scale-up nation by helping startup companies evolve. So I'd like you to share some of your most significant takeaways and insights from your journey as successful entrepreneurs helping to grow the Israeli construction tech industry by more than 800% over the last 4 years. Yakir, let's begin with you. So what was your biggest challenge in driving change and innovation in the construction industry?
Thanks, Gali. So I think there are two main challenges that we are facing. The first one is how can we take the technology and take our technology and making it accessible and valuable on actual construction sites, because having a super advanced and cutting edge technology is nice and it's important, but the main point is translating this technology to real world product that has tangible value and delivers what it's meant to deliver. And this is the main challenge on this area, taking this technology and making it to a real product that construction site can use. I think the second challenge is taking what we do and actually delivering what we promise and what we want to achieve on construction sites, because I think today most construction companies and most managers on the advanced construction companies have already heard about advanced technology, and they've heard about different products on construction sites that can help them, that are super advanced, but most of them haven't experienced that yet. So we want to always be able to deliver what we promise and to over-deliver what we promise and keep them always happy and excited about the next things that we want to deliver for them, because you pretty much get only one chance and you can't disappoint, and you must always over-deliver what you promised. And this is the second challenge I think that we face.
And how did you act? What did you do in order to deal with those challenges?
I think it is always keeping the entire company very focused on those challenges, making sure everyone are aligned with that, exposing to the customer what we will deliver, under promise and over deliver all the time. This is the thing that we're always trying to do, and it seems to be working out quite well once we manage to do that and focus our attention on that specifically.
So your superpower was focus.
Aligning, it's more than focus, it's aligning the entire company and everyone on board with that, and also aligning the customer itself on what to expect, what we will deliver, and how we can use that and be excited about that.
Wonderful, thanks, Yukir. Any other challenges that someone wants to mention?
I think we probably all face the same thing. I mean, we all startups in the construction industry, unlike others. I remember when we started, we used to pitch, they used to tell us high tech and construction, you have high tech, low tech, and then construction industry. And I think the last 2 years, 3 years, with the openness to prop tech and construction tech, this challenge is lately diminishing. But initially, nobody understood what we were talking about. What does industrial robotics revolution or high precision or data management have to do with such a low tech industry? And I think that this was the initial biggest challenge. And now, after that has been diminished, we are facing other challenges, each one more individually.
Of the new phases. Thank you. Tal, let's continue with you. So what was the major step that enabled your growth during the last 18 months of global pandemic?
Okay. So I'll start from the general and then we'll go to the pandemic.
Sure.
So the challenge in the growth is to be able first to access the customers, and second, to understand deeply what is the problem that we are solving for them. So for us, that we are dealing with infrastructure construction, big elongated projects, owners, general contractors, the access to the customers is with partners. So for us, the main enabler to address the customers is partners. Partners can be software companies like us, but much bigger, that they find in our technology complementary technology to what they are selling, and then they have a portfolio. So those can be business partners. And the other partners that helps to understand the value that we can bring with our technology is the design partners. So design partners can be big owners, Caltrans in the US, iRoads in Israel. So those are the type of design partners. So working with partners in our industry, which are long cycles, big project, huge opportunity, but requires a quicker access to the customers, is working with partners. So we enabled ourselves to grow through partners. In the pandemic, it was even more accelerated because we had to work remotely. The value, if we can call it this way, in the pandemic, in the infrastructure was time. It was the fact that the roads were empty. So some of the projects were accelerated. So people were looking for solutions that can address quickly the problem. And they were looking for solutions that can work remotely, which is exactly what we are doing. So in this sense, the pandemic actually opened for us the opportunity, and we streamlined ourselves to be able to do it ourselves and with partners. So we grew, I think, in the last 3 months about 3 times in our business, and the enabler
in sales, in clients, in
sales, in clients. We have today more than 100 customers.
Wow, that's impressive.
And tripled ourselves during the last 18 months.
So by talking about partners, you're actually talking about nurturing relationships, which is something super crucial for startups while they evolve, both with investors and with the partners that you're working with.
Yeah, being in different industries and being in ConstructionTech, it's always the challenge of how to address the customers, but in this market, which is a huge market with a very diversified amount of customers and customers that has the challenge of change. So working with partners that already work with those customers and enable with our technology those partners to bring more value, I think this is the way to go.
Thank you. Anyone else that wants to mention something about the growth?
I think for us it's less the part, but it's the customers themselves. And the distance and everything even made it more required to create that trusted advisor relationship with our customers. And I think what really enabled our growth over the last 18 months is the fact that because of that nurturing and the way we always think about the value to the customer, our customers became our biggest advocates and released just the video you saw. It was actually produced by our customers, basically without our hands touching it even. So the fact that they become our biggest advocates and talked about the value that we brought in, it created a rapid growth that we were, pandemic started, we stopped everything, and suddenly we jumped and multiplied customers and sites. That was amazing, and it was because of those relationships that turned into, them being our advocates and seeing us as partners. And that is crucial, especially in such, I would say, a dinosaur industry in some way, which is all about the relationship and the people.
Because it also involves to educate a new market and new customers to embrace technologies and things that they are not used to. So once they saw your value...
I don't like the word educate because it's a bit, I won't say arrogant, but it's really being there as trusted advisors and listening to them and working with them because they know better. And that's the way we approach it. I think that paid off immensely over the last 18 months.
That's wonderful. And you're emphasizing that they saw the value that you bring, so they wanted to pass it forward already for you.
Yeah, and in the end, in such industry, a lot of the leads, a lot of the sales are coming from this, like you have a project, and then when the project is over, these people that you touched, and if you touched a lot of them, are moving into 40 other projects. And that's the multiplier. That's the kind of the land and expand
And this
approach.
is one of the advantages of those industry, because each company has so many projects that the scale is easier in that manner.
And not even within the company, because people move a lot. So if you do a good job on every site you're on to those people, then that's your expansion path.
Great. Danny, let's continue with you in another aspect. What do you see as the main incentive of talents to join ConstructionTech startups?
So it's funny that you take the greatest minds of our generation today that are spending their talent on optimizing on a button that will get people to click and add more. And I think with everything going around and people are starting to look for more essence in what they're doing, and construction bring that like tons of it. We really are dealing with world problems, like with things like in 30 years, if things won't change and things we're trying to change, people will be out of homes. There's not enough workers and not enough, construction is not moving fast enough. So that's one part of it, which is more of like the biggest, the being part of something big. The other part is that I think, and my colleagues can testify for that, the fact that we're tech and construction creates a very unique culture in our companies that is different than everything I know. And there's something about that balance of, you said before, that construction and tech and how that can actually combine together. Well, it combines beautifully together and create a culture that is really unique and fun to work because you actually, the things you do have physical impact. And just the fact that I can go driving in the road and my son points on a crane and asks me, are you there? Is something that's yeah, that ad you just looked at I optimized it. It doesn't same, it's not the same.
And that's wonderful. I totally agree with you about culture. How do you do it in your company?
Yeah, I want to add to it. I agree with the fact that it's a global human problem, visible, that you're solving, and it's very easy to explain. I think that the challenge was the perception that, yes, it's an industry which is not high-tech and so on. Today, we're talking about multiple technologies, the highest challenges, the need to build very user-friendly, very simple, because this industry to consume, you have to bring something which is very simple, but it touches very complicated processes. So the challenge here is from the engineering point of view, is very big, it's very vivid, and it's enabled people that are coming from the construction domain and from the technology domain, ConstructionTech, to mold together subject matter expert here and technology people here, and then it becomes, a big orchestra, which is really solving a real problem for real people globally. And I think this is what drives a lot of people in this industry.
I agree.
Also to add to what Danny said here, and I completely agree. I think everybody talks about disruption all the time, and there are not many industries left to disrupt. And construction industry is not only the biggest industry, it's one of the less effective, less efficient, and with the less change in the past 100 years, unlike the last 5 years that has been immense new technologies and an increasement in acceptance of new technologies. And I think that if anybody really wants to be part of change and part of disruption, this is probably the biggest and last industry left to disrupt. So that's a huge incentive.
So if I'll take it another step forward, so what do you think is the next big trend in construction tech and prop tech startups? What do you think?
Well, I believe there are a few different levels that are still left untapped. One of them is the one we are touching, it's automation and robotics, bringing the industrial robotic revolution into the construction industry. I believe that manufacturing in general and automation, everything to do with safety. I think that also because of the corona, something we've experienced is the need to start manufacturing locally and not be reliant on shipments from other countries. And there's been a lot of delays and a lot of dependency on outsourcing. So anything you can do in-house and reduce your dependency on others will help.
The supply chain.
Changing the supply chain completely, yeah. Ordering components from China, ordering components from India, when you can manufacture locally, much cheaper, much more efficient, customizable.
To your country.
In our situation, it's different because we use robotics, so we actually reduce certain jobs and increase in other places. But this is what change always does. But I believe it's mainly integration between the different levels of the industry. There's been a lack of integration. Now with different software and BIM companies, we can have complete communication from the design into the actual people that are working on site. And it's been such a fragmented industry. And I believe the biggest thing that's coming is the unity of all these different fractions of the industry into one holistic process that's much easier and much more efficient to build and produce. And safety is a huge issue that, especially here in Israel, we are facing, and I believe that's something that will have a lot of emphasis also.
Thank you. Someone wants to add anything? So, are the construction sites really ripe for digital revolution that we're all talking about? What do you see is going on there?
I think the basic answer is yes. I think that construction sites today, they understand there are a lot of changes in the technology and construction sites. They use tablets today that they haven't used in a few years ago. They use BIM more and more to design. They use various collaborative applications to share data and to have everyone on board. And I think that the main change today is that companies understand that if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. So they're very hungry for new technology, for things that will change how they do stuff and will make them get to better results. But in order to do that, you must always get them on board, show them what we can deliver, how we can do that, listen to them, to what they want to do and how they think they should do that, and try to give them real and tangible value. I think this is the main issue. You don't get a lot of chances with those construction sites. This is a very difficult environment. They're trying to get their best in as short time as possible. And you need to make sure that you give them this value, that they can understand this value, they can see this value. And if you do that, they are very ripe for that. They are very hungry to do that more and more and expand it within the company. But it must deliver this value that you promise all the time and over-deliver when possible.
And you see more and more the GCs and the big companies that they are more, as you said, we really need to listen and to see how to tap into it step by step. Did you want to add something?
Yes. I joined this industry about 5 years back. I can justify that we're facing now a different stage already, because early it was, yes, can the construction and technology even mold together, like low-tech, high-tech? I think we're totally different place now, talking about digitalization in the site. People accept digitalization. What we need to do is to make our solutions replicating digitally the existing process, to use them or to homologate them or to get to use them much quicker. So I think the challenge now is not to convince people that digitalization is helpful. I think that they accept it already. I think that the challenge now is how to make the end-to-end solution platform, collecting data, processing data, analyzing data, how to provide this user-friendly, quickly, in order for people to embrace it quickly, in order for people to show to others that it brings them value. So I think this is where we are in adoption cycle more than in the starting point of whether technology can bring value in this domain.
Thank you, Tal. Yes,
I think to his point, our users are, if you think from a product perspective, I'm a product guy, so from a product perspective, our users are much harder than consumer even. The products we make, the noise we need to cut through, and to your point, it's exactly, you need to embed yourself into the processes they do because they don't break them. That's the mindset of a construction.
You need to adapt yourself to them.
You need to adapt yourself to them, and this is something, one of our biggest, I would say, missions is to be non-intrusive, to have them do nothing and provide value within their own things. And this is something, I think the pandemic actually accelerated very much their adoption of, their willingness to adopt the digital solutions and to use it is really, I think, made a leap, not just in construction, in a lot of industries, but you can definitely feel that.
I agree. So to conclude this wonderful panel, like a very short answer, please share with me your 2 cents as grown-up entrepreneurs experience in your field. What is your 2 cents for the new construction tech entrepreneur? Like, Danny, what would you say?
Understand that the biggest challenge is to get more data.
Data.
Look at any other industry. This is what's missing in construction to do really the next revolution.
Tal?
Deep dive into the understanding of the real use cases that bring the value, and focus. Like you are an entrepreneur, you have limited resources, you have limited time, you have to focus. You have to focus on what you are doing and where you put your resources, because the industry requires long sales cycles, requires a lot of attention. If you do not have the focus, you will miss it.
So data, use cases, and focus. Yakir?
I think what you've seen in the past few years, like a few years ago, in order to be an entrepreneur in the construction industry, you had to come from the construction industry. You had to be trusted. You had to be like 10, 20 years in the construction industry in order to be able to get their trust. I think it changed. I think that today you can come from outside, listen very carefully, try to understand why stuff happen, why they happen as they're happening today, and try to understand with the customer and consult with them how we can achieve the value that they need without changing the processes all at once.
You're talking about humbleness, to be humble.
Yes.
And Daniel?
Well, they all said great things, so I'll give maybe a more general outlook. I actually heard Elon Musk the other day, that I asked to him, but he had a great insight, and asked him, what words of encouragement do you have for a starting entrepreneur? And he said, if you need words of encouragement, don't become an entrepreneur. And the bottom line is never ever give up. It's not easy. You'll have so many ups and downs, and it doesn't matter if it's construction or any other industry. You just have to have perseverance and consistency and believe in what you're doing, and the rest will come.
I totally agree with this message of inner drive and resilience, and to continue all the way is not an option. Thank you all for your insights, openness, and wisdom, and for being pioneers. It's never easy to be the first one. Thank you so much. Aviv, back to you.
Thank you so much, Gali, and thank you everyone, Talia, Kir, Daniel, and Danny, for sharing your perspectives and your experience in this very unique time of global changes. All right, we're moving on to our next and very last conference session. Can you believe it? So for our last session of the 2021 Construction 4.0 conference, let me ask you this. Did you know that construction is the largest industry in the world? According to McKinsey, the construction ecosystem accounts for 13% of the global GDP. However, in the past 20 years, whereas the global productivity growth has reached 2.8% every year, the productivity growth in the construction industry remained less than 1%. Digital construction aims to change that and improve construction on many levels. The digital construction pillar will also be split between two halls simultaneously. I'm very proud to present the first speaker in the main hall, Dr. Hélène Lombois-Burger, the head of digital fabrication R&D at LafargeHolcim, who will discuss material developments for concrete 3D printing. Hélène holds a Master's of Engineering degree and a PhD in Material Science. In Hall 2, you can listen to Tim Schonheit, the Innovation Manager Design, and Yanis Peterwards, the Innovation Manager, both from Goldback, US, with over 15 years of experience in the architecture of commercial real estate. Tim's goal is to streamline planning processes and integrate building information throughout the entire value chain of construction and beyond. As Innovation Manager for construction, Yanis is constantly looking for new technologies and ideas from startups, construction-focused VCs, and industry partners to improve the construction site efficiency. They will speak about design, build, and operate how Goldback takes on innovation in between oceans. Following them in Hall 2, Tal Friedman will take us from design to manufacturing and back with AI and robotics. Tal Friedman is an architect, BARC-MANG, and CEO of Falltract. His work explores algorithm-based design to fabrication methodologies through innovative use of materials and machines. He is engaged in the ConTech PropTech startup scene, involved in a few ventures, and also serving as a special advisor for government bodies and corporations. If you wish to go to Hall 2, select Schedule from the top menu and then select the lecture you are interested in. Follow the same process to return here afterwards. Please welcome here Dr. Hélène Lombois-Burger.
Hello, everyone. It's my pleasure to have been invited to talk at Construction 4.0 event by ConTech. I'm Hélène Lombois-Burger. I'm heading the R&D on digital fabrication at LafargeHolcim, and I will just discuss with you recent material developments we made for concrete 3D printing, and I will illustrate this through recent large-scale job sites that we did with our partners. So our belief is that 3D printing is to be used when it brings an additional benefits versus reference construction technologies. And we see four main benefits. The first one is the material efficiency. You have the ability to place exactly the right material at the right place. So it means that you can save up to 60%. You see here an example of a bridge application by a Dutch startup, but you have plenty other projects of bridges. I will just show a few ones. And they all land on the same figures typically. The second one is to have the ability to increase the construction speed and productivity. Construction is suffering a productivity gap. It's one of the industries that has less enhanced its productivity since World War II. And with 3D printing, you have the ability to print and to build up to twice as fast. The third one is the flexibility and scalability. You can make some mass customization without any overcost. You have not to amortize a mold over large series, so you can do one-off designs without extra cost. And the last one is the ability of reduced logistics for large parts to avoid the transportation of pieces larger than 4.5 meters, usually difficult on road. Beyond this, you have additional ones, be it in terms of health and safety or whatever. And the way we do it is that we try to work in an open innovation approach to address the whole value chain. Indeed, the design should be application and manufacturing informed. Instead of having something that is sequential, you will just deal with everything at the same time. And the development path starts from the application. You will decide what you want to print. Is it a bridge? Is it a wall? Is it a slab? Then you will pre-design. You need to review your design for 3D printing to optimize it. Otherwise, if you just copy-paste usual designs, it will never fly. Then you will select the print technology, the best suited for your application. If you want, for instance, a large volume, it's better to have a gantry. If you want to make some very complex shapes, it's better to have a 6-axis. And then you will develop the material to have something that copes with the specifications from the application, the design, and the manufacturing technology. You have a few key challenges associated to 3D printing. The first one being the fresh stability. You will have some slanted structures, narrow and tall, no formworks to support them, and you don't want your layers to collapse when you deposit the upper ones on the lower ones. Second one is related to reinforcement strategies. Usually concrete is working in association with steel. In the case of the extrusion 3D printing, it will be a little bit more difficult at the beginning. So you have some strategies to just include this steel reinforcements. You want to have a monolithic material. It means that you want to avoid cold joints. Cold joints is a brittleness in between two successive layers. If you took too long to print the upper ones on top of the other ones, and you will have some remediation solution to this problem. Next, you want to be robust. Whatever your environmental conditions, be it cold or hot, with a high moisture content or low one, you want to have something that will produce the same printed structure and that will be crack-free. And last but not least, you have an emerging technology and you want it to be included into construction codes, which means that you will tend to develop some parametric models to just make it easier to get your design accepted, typically. So LH has developed two main products in its material offer. One is what we call one component materials. In that case, you mix a dry mortar or dry material with water, and after mixing, it's directly printable. In the second case, what we have is a two-component material. In that case, you make a first mixing of the dry material with water to have something fluid, which means that it's easily transferable, pumpable. And it's only in a secondary mixing step that will occur in the printing head, typically just prior extrusion, that you will add the secondary component, giving you the printability behavior. This second way is more flexible because you have the possibility to adjust materials property on the fly, but it requires a specific nozzle, allowing you to just get this printable mix. The solution we have developed encompasses various options, be it in terms of strength, from low strength, 15 MPa, to high strength, 90 MPa, or be it in terms of maximum aggregate size, in case you would wish to focus on aesthetic properties, you will have rather micro mortars. If you have a limited width, you might go to mortars to improve your environmental footprint. And if you have wider elements for still a further enhanced environmental footprint, you will go up to concrete, and this will require some specific process solutions. And last but not least, LH has focused on extended production robustness. We want to allow you to have long production runs without clogging, no need to clean everything in case of production arrest, and to have the same printed structure, whatever the environmental conditions, meaning that it can be cold, it can be hot, you can have some slight wind, middle wind, whatever. Just a few examples to illustrate what is possible. Best example is a co-development we are making with General Electric Renewable Energy and with manufacturing some wind turbine towers, and Oded, who is a Danish startup offering a gantry printing. The idea is to increase renewable energy production using making taller towers with larger bases and bypassing logistic constraints to transport these large bases thanks to printing on site. These taller towers will allow you to harvest more efficient winds, typically. We made two prototypes. The first one that you see here is the one done in October 2019, in which we wanted to demonstrate the ability to print at height. So it went up to 10 meters high, typically. And a second one that we did last October, in October 2020, going towards structural design. So it's another design to just have the ability to be structural, typically. And in that case, what we are developing as a material is a one-component concrete, high-performance one, and with the aim to just reach some very large throughputs and be robust to on-site environmental variations, temperature, wind, sun, that can just generate some temperature gradients, and so on and so forth. The second example is related to affordable housing. It's something that we do with Protein Trees, which is a joint venture between LH and CDC, and still with Oded at the printing company. What we target here is a faster construction. Malawi is suffering a backlog of 36,000 schools, and it will require over 70 years with conventional construction methods to bridge it. With 3D printing, it could be possible in only 10 years' time. The solution was labeled by Solar Impulse, both for its environmental impact and reduction of carbon footprint, but also for its economical viability. Two prototypes were printed in November 2020 in Malawi, one of a home that you can see on the left, in which you have, you can't see it on the picture directly, but it's a double layer in that case. And on the right, you see a prototype of a school that was printed a few weeks afterwards, trying to further improve the environmental footprint, going towards a single layer wall to have something that is nevertheless still stable. We have no use of the cavity wall, as no formal installation is required in that case. And so we developed a specific design with a crenulated shape that allow you to furbish properly your building, to have new functionalities and have something that is stable. We had to cope with very high external temperatures and control the curing typically. And in that case, what we use is a one component mortar with, I would say, lower throughputs than with the wind turbine tower application. And still, we need to just manage on-site printing conditions. I will just show you a short video about this printing. So you can see the slab on which the home is printed and the gantry printer. With the mortar that is printed, you see here clearly the double layer design. And you see that the robot was piloted by local people, as you may see. It was printed typically at night because the temperature was so hot that we had to do it at night. You had just sent the connectors in between the two layers typically that were made. And it's also included some other products from LH. And so now I'm going to discuss about first project of bridge that we had. It's a bridge that is intended for Paris Olympic Games 2024. In that case, as I mentioned earlier, what we target is to have better efficiency in terms of material savings, with up to 60% of material savings, because we optimize the cross-section of the bridge, putting the largest parts only when needed. So the consortium won this tender in 2020. And the ongoing phase on R&D is intending to optimize the interaction between the material and the process, and to just improve the materials to decrease still further the environmental footprint. So in that case, given the complexity of the shape that we have with a honeycomb shape that could never be produced without 3D printing, what we leverage is a 6-axis robot, which means that what we use is a high-performance 2-component mortar, because we want to produce these very complex shapes, and we have some quite enhanced aesthetic requirements. You may see here the renderings done by the architects. The last project is a second project of bridge, pedestrian footbridge, that will be displayed at the Venice Biennale this July. So this time, once again, we optimize the material use. Thus, the design is based on masonry, and the idea is to use this time the bridge in compression only. The former bridge, you will use post-tension to get the required load-bearing ability. In that case, you have no steel anywhere, just the printed, 3D printed mortar. And the blocks will be assembled dry stacked, which means that you have the ability to disassemble the bridge. If you want to have a circular element, you can reuse the bridge somewhere else. So the project was announced last May and will be just displayed, as I was mentioning, this July. And in that case, once again, what we were using is a 2-component mortar. You can see that we have some large overrun parts. So it's very important to get this 2-component to have the ability to just get these overrun parts. With very high aesthetic requirements, and the way it looks is like ceramic typically on the surface. And that's it. It was really my pleasure to be invited to this Construction 4.0 event by ConTech, and I hope you enjoyed these elements about 3D printing of concrete.
Hélène, 3D printing is such a new technology and has, just like any building technology, its strengths and restraints. How do you give them tools to design for this technology?
Thank you, Aviv, for this very good question indeed. It's true that as 3D printing is presently outside of construction codes, we need to really enable architects and designers to leverage all these benefits and learn from previous projects. So one of the best ways to do it is to try to create some parametric tools, so that once you have created a first project, you have the ability to just adjust the design to your specific new project, including all the design rules that you have in your former project. So typically, if you make a house, and you are designing a 3D printed wall, you will just put in the design what is the maximum width of the wall, minimum 1, what is the maximum length, maximum height, a few things about if you have a crenellity shape, what is the frequency of these crenels that you should have, and so on and so forth. And all of this will be encompassed into the parametric tool, so that you can generate a new project with some customization of this project, and the design rules are enclosed in this tool. And the second thing maybe to be mentioned is that you need to be aware that you need to have a material that is really dedicated to the type of project that you want to use. So as mentioned during the presentation, typically you won't use the same ink if you want to build a house, or if you want to build a bridge, or if you want to bring a wind turbine tower. So each time you have a new project, you will use this new ink, and all these material parameters also will be enclosed into the parametric tool that you will have to support the design. Thank you very much to give me the opportunity to talk at this Construction 4.0 event organized by ConTech. That's a really very great initiative, and I hope that it will help to leverage all the benefits from digital fabrication and digital tools. Thank you.
Very interesting illustrations. Thank you, Hélène. Our last speaker for today, who will also close our conference, is Aviad Almagor, a Division Vice President of Emerging Technologies at Trimble. Aviad holds a master's degree from Cambridge University, an MBA degree from Heriot-Watt University, Scotland, and a B.Arch degree from the Israeli Institute of Technology. Aviad will speak about holistic approach to digital transformation.
Good morning, good afternoon. It is a pleasure to be here. This is a beautiful picture. It was created by Box.com in 2014 as part of the research about information flow in different organizations, different industries. This specific image is about a typical large construction organization. We'll come back to this image later because it illustrates the challenges we have in the construction industry. But before we dive into the details, I would like to present Trimble, a global company with 11,000 employees, about $3.2 billion of annual revenue, and 4 industries that are our main focus: transportation, agriculture, geospatial, and construction. Trimble develop hardware and software solutions. On the hardware side, think about GNSS technology, positioning technology, reality capture, things like laser scanners and total stations, IoT devices and sensors, and machine control. On the software side, it is typically end-to-end solutions to the industries we serve. So if we'll take construction, for example, we have design solutions like SketchUp and Tekla Structures. We have construction management applications, and we have owner's portfolio solutions. A core value for Trimble is to deliver integration. Integration of hardware, integration of software solutions, and integration of business processes for our customers as a mean for efficiency. And this brings us back to the image we started with, but this time with some references. On the bottom right, we can see a typical organization in the finance industry, very centralized information flow. And then on the top right, we see manufacturing with a bit looser structure. And then on the left, the chaotic construction industry. Now, if you think about it, it's a natural path. It's a natural structure because construction is a local industry. We have local owners, local authorities, local regulations, subcontractors, contractors, manufacturers. They're all local. And the project can be anywhere around the world. So we cannot change this structure. We might be able to offer prefab as a partial solution. But what we can do is we can utilize technology and create a digital transformation process that will help us take the efficient information flow that we see on the bottom right and implement it on top of this fragmented construction industry structure. And this change can transform a complete efficient process. Now, some of you might ask why this will work today. We are all familiar with those graphs that you see on the screen about the productivity of the construction industry. There is no need to read the small letters. Always follow the red line at the bottom. With some optimistic scenarios, it will be a flat line. With more pessimistic scenarios, it will just go down and increase the gap compared to the other industries. So why we think things can happen differently at this stage? A possible answer for this question is enabling technologies. And to be more precise, exponential improvements in enabling technologies. And we can talk about 3 technologies that you can see here on the slide. Computation power is the first one. It's the ability to consume and analyze a huge amount of data that is needed to get decisions in construction. The second is broadband speed. Remember this image we presented with all the remote sites. In order to make decisions, we need to make sure that decision makers can get the data from the site in real time. And the third is about data volume, big data. We have enough data today to utilize AI and machine learning to make insights, predictive insights, and even prescriptive insight to improve the decision-making process. So once we have those enabling technologies, we can start to look at more specific technologies. And what is important here is not to look at each of them as a single specific technology, but to look at them as a whole. Because once they work together, we can deliver efficiency. Take a look, for example, at BIM, but not the lonely BIM, but a collaborative BIM, a cloud-based BIM solution to improve communication and transparency. Or mixed reality, which brings together the digital and the physical world to improve the ability of users to understand the relation between the two environments. Robotics for automated workflow, brain-computer interface to improve the interaction between humans and asset, digital and physical. And of course, AI with its ability to predict and prescribe solutions. So when we are talking about integration, we should look at it from horizontal integration and vertical integration. On the horizontal side, supporting the full workflow from design to construction to facility management. And on the vertical side, support all stakeholders, ensuring that data flow is effective and support the decision-making process. And it's not just about the horizontal and vertical integration, it's also about integration of business workflows. Those are critical for a successful integration and implementation of the technology. As an industry, we are great with collecting data on site. We have GNSS, we have drones, we have IoT sensors, cameras, robots, humans collecting data. And we have the cloud infrastructure to absorb the data and process it, and then the edge solutions on finance and operations and logistics to really help decision makers do their work. What we should improve is the linkage between the different stages. We should automate the data flow in order to get real efficiency and real transformation of the industry. And I would like to give you 2 examples. The first one is about a 4-legged robot equipped with a reality capture device, a Trimble scanner, collecting data and uploading this data to the cloud. What you see here on the screen is a Boston Dynamics Spot robot with an integrated solution to capture data in a construction site. Once the robot finishes the collection of the data, it will move to the next waypoint completely autonomously, and the data will be uploaded to the cloud. So decision makers, designers, owners, anyone who involved in the project can actually visualize the progress on site and understand and take decisions based on the input from the site almost in real time. We can take this concept further and start evaluating the data we collected and compare it to additional information. For example, compare it to a BIM model. On the screen now, we see a use case from Hensel Phelps, a strategic customer for Trimble. And in this project at the Denver airport, a renovation project, they took the scan data collected by the robot autonomously and compare it to a BIM model to identify any discrepancies between the two early on in order to avoid delays in the project later down the road. Another great example for integration is mixed reality. And in this case, we bring together the BIM digital content and the physical environment, and we place them aligned to each other so on-site construction workers can evaluate the relation between the two and identify any discrepancies or deformations. this information can also be shared with remote users, and actually we can offer them the opportunity to completely immerse themselves in a remote site and understand the situation in real time. Those two examples present not just integration of hardware and software or business workflows, it represents an integration of the industry as a whole, from the design to the construction to the facility management stages. And this is where we can bring efficiency and transform the industry. A successful implementation of mixed reality can take us farther with AI. Using AI, we can create semantic models, better understand the environment, and actually reflect this by presenting delays in schedule or discrepancies from design in a visual way. Successful digital transformation and kind of holistic views that we presented here can really make a change, can deliver efficiency with improved productivity, transparency with all stakeholders engaged and involved in the process and have access to data. Traceability, a critical aspect if we are talking about improvements. Traceability can provide me the ability to go back in time and see where decisions were made and learn to do better in the future. Interactivity, the ability to simulate, to run what-if scenarios. What if we change the structure from concrete to steel? What will be the impact on the cost? What will be the impact on the schedule? What if we change the compactor pass? How efficient this be from the fuel consumption point of view? Predictability, and even take it further, prescriptability, the ability of the system to deliver solutions to the decision makers. And last, but maybe the most important aspect, sustainability. It is our responsibility as an industry to improve sustainability, to reduce the carbon footprint of the building environment. A successful implementation might help us as an industry to change the the image of the industry from a technology follower to a technology leader and improve productivity dramatically. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aviad. By the way, how do you see the future of robotics at the job sites?
That's a great question, and actually we are just starting this exciting journey. Our vision is that cobots will work side by side with humans. By cobots, I mean collaborative robots. And it doesn't have to be just this four-legged robot we saw in the video earlier. It can be drones, it can be cranes, it can be dozers, anything which can be automated. And those robots will augment the human workforce and will deliver all the dull, repetitive, and dangerous tasks that humans need to carry today.
Thank you, Aviad, for this optimistic and holistic view of digital construction. So we are almost over. Let's say hello one more time to our Michal Sror at the watch party. Michal, how do you conclude this amazing event?
Well, Aviv, we had a wonderful day here on the fourth floor. Lots of people coming through. As you saw in the morning, we had government officials, investors, many of the startups that presented this morning, obviously the panelists that you had in the broadcast studio. All of them made sure to come upstairs, enjoy the networking, and also follow up on a few of the meetings that they had here. So a lot of talk about construction tech, a lot of talk about future business opportunities, and we've had a wonderful time here. And to sum up this day, I've actually grabbed Tzachi, who's actually had just a minute to come around and network and talk to people. And Tzachi, I wanted to know how you wanted to sum up this amazing, amazing two-day conference.
So hi, Michal. Good afternoon. It's great to be here. I'm super excited. Actually, we're wrapping up 2 days of hybrid event. I think it's maybe the first one in our domain. So we made a unique combination of online content together with the physical event. We had a couple of physical events here. So it was super challenging, but it was very good. We had like 1,500 participants, 35 speakers, 3 different panels, a lot of content. Obviously, you'll be able to see all this content online in our VOD. And we're wrapping up that. So it was very good. And I hope everybody enjoyed it.
I think, Tzachi, it was a fantastic 2 days. I think everybody got some great content. And Aviv, as you saw, quite a few people have been watching you here online, which is great. I love the numbers. I wanted to know as well, Tzachi, what's up next for ConstructionTech?
So we're finishing today Construction 4.0 2021. Next, in a few weeks, we're going to open our application for the next incubation batch. Actually, it's going to be the 5th batch. And this year, it's going to be open internationally. So we're going to make a combination of Israeli startups as well as global startups. So stay tuned to our website. You'll be able to see that over there. And next year, well, hopefully we'll have back our physical event. So that's what we want. Last year we had a great event as well, a physical event. Hopefully next year we're coming back to a physical event here in Tel Aviv. Probably the mid of the year. Tel Aviv is a great place to visit. Hope to see all the 1,500 participants here physically in Tel Aviv. It's a great place.
It is a great place. I must vouch for that. And hopefully when everybody arrives here next year, they can come and join us. And you guys also partnering in the II4 week in November as well. Together, we're going to see each other again. So quite a few collaborations here with ConTech. We're always happy to support ConTech. It's been great to have you guys here. And Aviv, back to you for a few summary words and a few thank yous as well that we owe quite a few people.
Thank you so much, Michal. Thanks, Tzachi. So, ladies and gentlemen, with more than 1,500 attendees from over 20 countries, this has been the 2021 conference by ConTech Digital Edition, and it has been a great pleasure to have you with us. We hope you enjoyed the conference and have taken at least one practical idea that would help you build a better world. I want to thank again all the lecturers and panelists, all our partners, and the many people who worked behind the scenes to make this conference a success. Thank you again, and see you next year, face-to-face, hopefully, in Tel Aviv. חברים, תודה רבה.